There's realistically 8 differences from this phone and the iPhone 12. In many ways, they're the exact same phone. And the iPhone 12 Pro Max is just a bigger version of this phone, but for some reason, the iPhone 12 Pro ended up being one of my favorite 12 series devices. Okay, I will say best of 4, but the 12 mini ties with this phone to be my favorite. It's strange because if you saw my iPhone 12 video, you'll know that these are essentially the same phone, being the same 6.1-inch 1170p OLED panel on the front with a 60Hz refresh rate, but this goes to 800 nits while the 12 goes to 625 nits, but is literally the same screen. Then we have the notch area for the front camera as well as Face ID for facial recognition, again, the same thing, just like the earpiece loudspeaker, so much that they actually had a recall for these loudspeakers on both of these phones. The frame, however, is stainless steel, but with the same volume button, silent switch, and SIM tray on the left, power button on the right, nothing on the top, microphone and lightning port, and another loudspeaker on the bottom for that stereo feel. But the back is different, being a glass slab with the camera island, but of course with an extra camera as well as the LiDAR sensor for great autofocus even at night. The cameras are kinda the same, but the ultra-wide and the telephoto camera are different and added, respectively. But honestly, I can't tell the difference in quality from the main and ultra-wide camera. Being able to shoot HDR at 4K 60 frames per second is nice for me, something that the 12 can't do, but it's not because of the Apple A14 Bionic chip. Not only is it the same, but so are the GPU cores. Instead, the iPhone 12 Pro has 6GB of RAM and 128 to 512GB of storage, while the 12 is 4GB of RAM and 64 to 256GB of storage. But in my usage, it didn't affect app performance, other than the camera. I will say that the added RAM technically does make the phone feel snappier, but I didn't get that feeling when using the 12 Pro Max. Battery life is also good enough, being the same 2815 mAh cell with about 20 watts of wired and 15 watts of wireless charging through Qi 2 or MagSafe. For me, the battery was never an issue, and here's my battery life. It's no battery champ for sure, but it feels better than what I got on the iPhone 12, even though it kind of shouldn't. I will say this phone is heavier at 189 grams, but in reality it wasn't too heavy, but when you compare both phones at the same time, the 12 mini feels lighter, which it is. At 5.78 inches tall, it's a great compact but not phone, which I very much enjoy. The sizing is what drew me to this phone because, let's be honest, the iPhone 12 mini is just too small. I still like that phone and its weight, but there are moments where looking at the screen, I just squint or bring it closer. And the 12 and 12 Pro kind of fix this. The phone is IP68 dust and water resistant, but no, don't dunk this in water. It is strange, but I actually enjoyed this phone. I say it's strange because, like I said, it's just like the iPhone 12 and is a smaller 12 Pro Max with one big difference, but the 12 Pro just feels the best. I have this theory that the bigger your screen, the slower it feels, and I feel like this helps my theory. Now, here's where I felt kind of disappointed. To start, there are 4 cameras in total, all 12 megapixels, all 4K 60 frames per second video, and all great. But the front camera is great, being essentially the same 12 megapixel camera you'll find in pretty much all modern iPhones, minus the 17 series, and at f2.2 instead of f1.9 on the iPhone 14 and newer. This fixed focus sensor is great, but of course, without being focusable, you can't get razor sharp shots. That said, still pretty good shots. Then on the back we have a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera, the last Pro without a focusable one, so no macro. But that's a good thing. That's because the main camera is a 12 megapixel sensor that has optical image stabilization, but not the class-leading sensor shift stabilization on the 12 Pro Max and 13 series and newer, but that's fine. The photos and videos out of this sensor are still amazing, even being a 1/2.55-inch sensor. Lastly, we have the 12 megapixel telephoto camera at the 2x zoom, which from 2016 to 2020 was perfectly fine, I guess. The 12 Pro Max was a 2.5x zoom, but the 13 Pro was a 3x zoom, the more reasonable zoom. A 2x optical zoom is perfectly fine, but compared to what's put out there, this just feels dated, which it is. But like I said, 4K 60 frames per second video out of all of these cameras, and they all look great thanks to being the first iPhones with HDR video at that frame rate. While people hate HDR at times, which I kind of do as well, being able to throw this into an SDR timeline to get better dynamic range versus what you capture with regular SDR is a win in my books. But I'll give you a little bit more time with my camera shots so you can tell me if it's good or bad. strange because I think that this all adds up to the iPhone 12 Pro being the best Pro phone in a few ways. Sure, this doesn't have the sensor shift stabilization and a 2.5x zoom camera, but it's also 39 grams lighter than the 12 Pro Max. One big thing is the minimum focus distance. What this means is how close the main camera will focus, which is about 8 centimeters away. Meanwhile, my iPhone 16 Pro is 20 to 24 centimeters away, which got worse ever since the iPhone 13 Pro. This downside does allow them to make larger camera sensors in the newer phones, but this also relies on the ultra-wide camera for close shots, which makes the iPhone 12 Pro stand out in not only close photos, but especially close video because the ultra-wide camera is terrible for that if you want to go high quality. Funny enough, the distance of 8 centimeters is the closest any iPhone does on the main camera at all, being closer than the 12 centimeters on the 12 Pro Max because of that 1/1.9 inch sensor. All aspects of the 12 Pro are similar to the 12 Pro Max, just at a smaller size and weight, which technically allows the stainless steel band to make the phone more structurally sound, something that you want to think about as the phone ages. I've seen more iPhone 12 Pro Maxes, or bigger phones in general, have issues with their baseband, which is the cellular connection. Once that happens, the phone is no longer a phone in a basic sense. The other thing is the iPhone 12 and 12 Pro are practically the same phone. Yes, the frame and cameras are different, but like I said in my iPhone 12 video, there is a long list of parts that the iPhone 12 shares with it, making repair easier to achieve. Eventually, places won't have parts, but flooding the market with parts that are interchangeable is beneficial for the consumer. But the sizing is great. I'll be honest, under 6-inch screens feel small to me, but at this size, it's great. This 6.1-inch screen with the smaller size is not perfect, but it works pretty well. At 5.78 inches tall, this is 0.01 inches taller than the considered compact Asus Zenfone 9 from 2022 with its 5.8-inch screen. The sizing is what makes this phone feel more realistic than carrying around a Pro Max or Plus phone. Having that added screen would be nice, but the bulk, no. At the end of the day, let's be honest, the iPhone 13 Pro is truly the best old Pro phone. From 2021, we got a 3x zoom, a 120Hz refresh rate, and, well, that's about it. Sure, better processor and battery, but those are expected minor upgrades year over year. At a similar price, sure, the iPhone 13 Pro, all the way. But notice that the 11 Pro isn't in the conversation. The 12 Pro is a solid 5G phone that will get iOS 27 and probably go to iOS 28 or even iOS 29. Even though there's no 120Hz panel, or the 2x camera would have been better as being just a 48 megapixel main camera, I still enjoyed using this phone for the many weeks that I've used it for. I kind of didn't want to move on. I wanted this phone when it came out, and having to wait this long to actually use the phone really makes me appreciate it. It's not perfect, but for me, it's great enough. And that's my review of the iPhone 12 Pro, the best of the 12 series. But what do you think? Pro Max all the way, or is your eyesight actually good? Let me know, and as always, thanks for joining the 1%, and thanks for watching.